Do you think vaccines should be obligatory? Absolutely not. No. It's your body, it's your choice. I'm a libertarian. I always believe that. And I think it would be morally wrong to compel people to take a vaccine. You should be able to convince people through good judgment. Uh, my company, for example, I said I will not require anyone in my company to take a vaccine if they don't want to. Now, I said if you want to take one, I'll pay for it. But if you don't want to take one, is what it is. That's your decision to make. I do not believe vaccines should be mandatory in any sense of the word. You should easily be able to convince people that vaccines are safe and effective. And if you can't, well, then you have a problem with your communication. You have a problem with your process. There are many things that were not adequately explained, like the liability protections that vaccine manufacturers have. I can understand why that creates a great degree of skepticism for people. Frankly, all of these vaccines that are made in the US should have been taken under the Defense Production Act and open sourced. And all the science and data and designs should have been open sourced. I'm not here to make $30 billion from Moderna. This is a national emergency. If you're going to say the nation's shut down, then treat it like World War II and nationalize the solution until the war is won. The fact that they didn't do that, it creates a skepticism amongst people that at the best case scenario, it's nepotism and cronyism and corruption. The worst case scenario is the backdoor for nefarious purposes. And so I can understand vaccine hesitancy. You know, the other thing is, why should people believe the media? They've been lied to again and again and again and again and again. It's not, if a person's hesitant about something, their fault that they're skeptical and cynical, because they've never been given the real story. Look at Hunter Biden, for example. You know, before the election, it's Russian propaganda. Afterwards, I guess we've been investigating him since April, and the laptop was real. It's like, y'all knew all along. Why? Because of politics. And so if you're willing to play politics on these things, of course you're willing to play politics on our health. You did it with Black Lives Matter. Those protests were legitimate and necessary, and 1,000 public health officials signed a letter saying they should not be stopped. But any other protest is not legitimate and necessary. The distribution of vaccines, there are apparently recommendations being pushed through where critical workers, necessary workers, they're factoring in race for these things. And they're saying that a 20-year-old Black teacher apparently should be prioritized over a 75-year-old white male. These are some of the recommendations that are being pushed through. It's extraordinary to me that these things are being pushed through. 92% of people who have died from this have died over the age of 55. People under the age of 14, less than 1,000 have died. Under the age of 12, less than 100 have died from COVID in the United States. And to say that we now have to factor race over age is abandonment of medical science, and it's an embracing of a woke cult. So then why is this relevant to public health? If people know that decisions are being made not based on science and facts and reason, but they're being made for political purposes, then people are skeptical if the politics of the people recommending things diverge from their own personal politics. So I understand the hesitancy, and I fully appreciate it. And I'm in a unique position where I can, on a first name basis, talk to virologists, talk to pharmaceutical executives, talk to doctors, and I'm able to read clinical data from the trials and what's coming through the FDA. And it's not rosy. I mean, when the Moderna vaccine, for example, 13 people died, if you read the clinical data, 6 from the vaccine group, 7 from the placebo group. There were 3 cases of Bell's palsy. In the AstraZeneca trial and the Johnson & Johnson trial, there was transverse myelitis. I mean, this is not exactly stuff that makes you just wake up in the morning and say it's like taking an antacid or aspirin. There's certainly something there, and you have to dig through it and think about it and work through it to be able to understand what's going on. If you don't come from that culture or have that ability, then you're just going to do the most logical thing, which is to take a step back and say, I'm going to wait. And then the very same people who told us it's perfectly safe to protest for racial justice, but you can't go to a bar or a restaurant, apparently that'll kill you, are now telling us that there's no problem at all with these vaccines and everything's fine. You see, and that's the rub, and that's why people are so skeptical and they're so angry about this, and conspiracy theories are flourishing and so forth. And it just means that the systems are broken and institutional trust is broken, and we have to solve that problem before we can move forward. The good news is that the vaccines actually are safe and effective, in my view, and I do not believe they're going to cause many problems, and I think that they're going to break the pandemic, even if we only have a 50 or 60% uptake on them, which will likely happen because of the way these dynamics work. And it'll probably happen by April to June. I'm with Moncef Salawi and these guys. I'm a bit more optimistic than Vivek is. So we'll see what happens with them. And then it's a burden is on us to get back to business. Yeah, this is a great point too. It says, I find it's interesting. There's no real recommendation from government about healthier diet. This is another reason why things are so politicized. Vitamin D, just vitamin D. 80% of the people who've died from COVID had vitamin D deficiencies. There's overwhelming evidence that vitamin D is a contributor to the problem, not just for COVID, but for viral infections in general. So where are the recommendations for that? Insulin resistance is another humongous problem, not just for the COVID side of things, but for all the chronic ailments we're starting to see, the Parkinson's, the Alzheimer's, the hypertension, the heart disease, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where are the diet recommendations to resolve that? Now give people insulin when they're insulin resistant. Boy, that'll fix the problem. So that is probably the single greatest sin. It's the supplement and dietary guidelines of the federal government. They are broken and bad. They're an artifact of Ancel Keys from the 50s and solidified in the 70s, and they've killed more people than any other thing in America combined. Charles, do you plan on doing any projects with Australia, or are you already? We have some developers in Australia. For example, Eric DeCastro, who does DB Sync, and I was in Canberra not too long ago. But I'll come back. The whole world got shut down, so we'll be there. Did we lose the comment feed? I don't see any comments flow through. Huh. All right. Well, we're waiting for comments to aggregate. I'll go ahead and throw a joke on, and I think you guys are going to like this one. So, what's your favorite joke? So there's this guy. He's in Kansas, just kind of driving his truck down the road. It's going about 60 miles an hour for you Europeans. I don't know what, 80 kilometers, 90 kilometers an hour. He's just cruising, having some fun. And then he sees in his rearview mirror some small animal that's gaining on him. And as it gets closer and closer, it's a chicken. And he gets a closer look at the chicken and he says, "That's a three-legged chicken. That's the craziest thing." And suddenly it passes him. So, wow, that chicken must be going fast. So he speeds up his car a little bit, his truck a little bit, and starts following the chicken because he's never seen a three-legged chicken before. So then suddenly the chicken darts off down to a dirt road on the left-hand side. And he says, when in Rome, you got to do as the Romans do. I got to follow this chicken. I got to see where he goes. And so he starts driving down the dirt road and keeps going and going until he finds an old farmhouse. He said, I bet this is where the chicken lives. And so he gets out of the truck and walks on over and knocks on the ranch door. This old man answers it. And the truck driver says to him, he says, "Sir, I'm sorry for bothering you, but I was driving down the road and I saw a three-legged chicken come this way, and I was curious if you had anything to do with that." And the old man said, "Oh, I sure do. I breed them." And so the truck driver said, "You breed three-legged chickens?" He's kind of taken aback a bit. He said, "Why in the world would you breed a three-legged chicken?" And the old man says, "Well, I like the drumstick, and the wife likes the drumstick, and the kid likes the drumstick. And so I just got so tired of fighting over him, I figure if I had a three-legged chicken, we'd all get a drumstick." Truck driver, still flabbergasted. He's just thinking about it. And eventually he says, "Well, how do they taste?" And the old man, he says, "Well, I have no idea. I've never been able to catch one." I stole that one from Ronald Reagan. Okay. All right. I'm not getting any Facebook or YouTube comments. So I'll just go through the backlog and then we'll cut it there. Hi, Charles. How about season 2 of The Mandalorian? Star Wars Have a New Hope? As long as Kathleen Kennedy is there. I, for example, saw a report that Disney will only cast for the lead character in their new Star Wars series a person of color or a woman. It's woke wars. As long as Kathleen Kennedy is there, it's not about entertainment. It's not about story and narrative. It's about an agenda. They got real lucky that Jon Favreau didn't get the memo, and he knew how to create a good Star Wars series. But I'm deeply concerned that this will just embolden Kathleen Kennedy to continue the damage to Star Wars and continue pushing a radical social justice agenda instead of actually making entertaining content. Hope I'm wrong, but I'm not optimistic, and we'll see what happens. Just there's no place for me in that ecosystem. After The Last Jedi, all my love of Star Wars died. Just died on the vine. And I was apathetic. I didn't even care about Rise of Skywalker. I was blown away by The Mandalorian. I thought it was great. And we'll see if they keep building on that success with the new series that are coming out. But I am not optimistic because Kathleen Kennedy is still in control. And we're only getting the Twitter feed. I'm not getting the YouTube. All right. Well, we'll cut it here then. Thank you, everybody. This is a Christmas special. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had a lot of fun too. And until next time, have a wonderful day. I hope you all enjoy Christmas with the family and the holidays with the family. Have a crazy Kwanzaa and a happy Hanukkah. I think there are 12 or 13 major holidays over this 60-day period. Even you Zoroastrians have a few ceremonies and festivals. So everybody have a good time and everybody enjoy it. The most important thing, regardless of the faith or the culture, is the family. And make sure that you find a way to spend some time with loved ones. I know I will. Cheers.